and welcome. The Ministry of Education held a webinar on Sabka Prayas collective partnership in the context of a better education system in India, in which Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan called for furthering the spirit of Sabka Prayas. Union Minister Piyush Goyal said that the National Education Policy 2020 will be the pillar of the foundation of New India. The webinar was a part of a series being organized by the Government of India on good governance from the 17th of September this year to the 7th of October. In Focus today takes stock of the major takeaways of yesterday's webinar, coupled with insights into the discussions held by our panel of experts. A very warm welcome to all our viewers and also our esteemed guests whom I'd like to introduce on the show. They are Professor Rajneesh Jain, Secretary of the UGC, and also Professor Nageshwar Rao, VC of IGNOU, Vice Chancellor IGNOU, and Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi, Dean IIFT. A very warm welcome to all our esteemed guests. But first, let's listen in to what Union Ministers Piyush Goyal and Dharmendra Pradhan said during the webinar yesterday.
मित्रों, पीपी किट हो या अमेरिका को दवाई भेजने की बात हो या भारत की अंदर वैक्सीन बनाने की बात हो, ये अगर समाज की प्रयास नहीं रहता, हम आज ये हासिल नहीं कर पाते। आज हमारी उपलब्धि न केवल भारत की आवश्यकता को पूरा कर रहा है, ये विश्व की जरूरतमंद लोगों की आवश्यकता को पूरा करने की जिम्मेवारी भारत की चरित्र में है। इसलिए मित्रों, हमारी सरकार की चरित्र
सबका प्रयास मिला नहीं,
सबको डेमोक्रेटिक प्रोसेस में साथ लेते हुए एक जन आंदोलन खड़ा करने की चरित्र वाला सरकार है। भागीदारी की मानसिक स्थिति निर्माण करने वाले एक सरकार है। देश की नेतृत्व प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने उसको कुशलता के साथ संभाला। क्या उससे बड़ा कोई उदाहरण जन भागीदारी का, जन प्रयास का हो सकता है? ऑक्सीजन की बात हो, मेडिसिन उपलब्ध कराने की बात हो, कोरोना केयर सेंटर बनाने के लिए बात हो, देश एकजुट हुआ कोविड-19 को संभालने के लिए। फिर मैं विनम्रता के साथ कहूंगा, चुनौती रहा, दिक्कत हुई, लेकिन दिक्कत को जनता ने स्वीकार इसीलिए किया, उनको भरोसा था कि देश की नेतृत्व का सही प्रयास है। मित्रों, प्रजातंत्र में, लोकतंत्र में जन भागीदारी के बिना, जन विश्वास के बिना ये करना असंभव है।
किस प्रकार से हम सुशासन को कार्यक्रम योजनाओं में भी लाएं, हमारे दिनचर्या में भी लाएं, और हमारे आर्थिक काम में या सरकारी काम में भी कैसे गुड गवर्नेंस को फाउंडेशन बनाए, ये भी हम सबका सामूहिक प्रयास रहना चाहिए और हमारी सामूहिक जिम्मेदारी है। मैं समझता हूं जिस प्रकार से नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी ने फोकस किया है कि हम देश विदेश की यूनिवर्सिटीज को जोड़ें, साथ में जॉइंट वेंचर्स करें, ड्यूअल डिग्री की तरफ आगे बढ़े, हमारे बच्चे सिर्फ विदेश जाने के बदले विदेश के बच्चों को भी यहाँ पे लेके आए, उसके लिए कुछ अच्छी टाई अप्स हो। भारत की यूनिवर्सिटीज की जो स्ट्रेंथ्स है वो विदेश में सिखाई जाए, विदेश की स्ट्रेंथ्स भारत में सिखाई जाए, लिबरल आर्ट्स को और प्रमोट किया जाए, लिबरल साइंस और मैथ्स की एजुकेशन के साथ साथ लिबरल आर्ट्स को भी हम प्रमुख विशेष दर्जा दें। तो मैं समझता हूं कि इस नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी ने एक बहुत सारे रास्ते खोल दिए हैं।
Well, we were just listening in to Union Ministers Dharmendra Pradhan and Piyush Goyal and what they said about their vision for Sabka Prayas collective partnership as far as the new education policy 2020 is concerned. First of all, coming to you, sir, as a Secretary of the University Grants Commission, Professor Rajneesh Jain, your thoughts on what Union Minister Piyush Goyal said. He said that the new education policy will be the pillar of the foundation of New India. Your thoughts?
A very good afternoon to all the viewers, and thank you for providing me this opportunity to share my views on this. As we held a webinar on Sabka Prayas collective partnership, and as we have listened to honorable ministers, honorable Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan ji and honorable Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal ji, so he has very rightly said that the new education policy is going to be the pillar for the future of India. In fact, when we have a policy which has come after a long waiting of 34 years, this policy is actually aimed at transforming higher education in many ways. So there are going to be major changes in terms of what the students are going to study, how they are going to learn, what they are going to learn, how the institutes are going to function, how the institutes will provide various facilities to its all stakeholders, how teachers are going to teach, what they are going to teach, how technology will be integrated. So there are going to be the major changes at a student level, at faculty level, at institutional level, at the governance level, and specific provisions have been proposed in this national education policy, which has come in existence on 29 July 2020. So I think as we go further, I would be able to explain it in a much elaborate manner on specific points. But yes, this policy is aimed at transforming India, and when after 25 years, when India completes 100 years, we will see the students who have taken admission now, how they are going to undergo a major change in terms of their learning, in terms of their thought process, in terms of their behavior, in terms of their sensitivities towards society, towards nature, towards nation, and towards the whole world. The focus is not on just preparing a manpower which is only employable, but the focus is on preparing individuals who are developed, who are well-rounded individuals, who not only have the competencies to perform with 21st century skills, but at the same time they have strong character with strong value system, who will emerge as global citizens. So these would be
right. The making of global citizens of the future. That is the aim. That is what we should understand in a way. One aspect of New India, a pillar for the foundation of New India. And we now come to you, Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi. You are the Dean of IIFT. When Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan calls for furthering the spirit of Sabka Prayas, how would you explain his concept of Sabka Prayas? Is it, who are the stakeholders he's talking about here? And what are the kind of combined efforts that students, that the education system of the future as envisaged right now by the government right now, how, who are the stakeholders and what are the kind of combined efforts that we're talking about here?
No, thank you so much. And you know, if you go through the entire policy, NEP 2020 which has come, you know, this is absolutely transformational and the unprecedented change that this country has ever, witnessed in its, last 75 years of its independence. If you see, for any of the, the government policies to succeed, what is required is, things should come from the grassroots level. So stakeholder, when you talk of, prior to bringing out this policy, we had interactions, stakeholder consultations across the country, across disciplines, across universities and across institutes. And because a consultation was taken by so many people, and therefore, the adaptability of this policy is much more. And what you find is the resistance in case of its implementation is less. Now, this is basically, if it goes by, it's a Japanese system of management, wherein, we take the consultation, first. Then you see the stakeholder, the involvement. The stakeholder involvement or the collective involvement. Now, so far the educational system was absolutely different than the society. But if you see, we have put the concept like what we call as skill development. We have gone the concept what we call as local experts, local artisans, local skilled people, and every institute, universities, colleges, they have been asked to, bring out some of the small courses which are local in nature. So, you see the impact of this is being felt absolutely from Leh to Kanyakumari. The institutes, the colleges, India has got 40,000 colleges. Now, colleges, the teachers, principals have been asked to, interact with the students and bring out the courses, say course on art and culture. Then say history department, sociology departments, we have asked them to interact with the local historical sites, local monuments, and some time of a task for the development of the literature, keeping up with them, tying up about the institutes and the students and the faculty with the NGOs, unparalleled. And if you see the training, what is the mode of delivery? So far in the entire education system, mode of delivery was a teacher used to go to the class, take a class for say 30 minutes or an hour or so, 45 minutes. Once the class is over, teacher came and we had an annual system of examination. Now, this is, could increase some knowledge, but I think it never touched upon what we call as a skill development part. And to have a skill, every place in India has got a local skill. This is probably the education policy which has, integrated the local manpower, the local skill set, the local heritage, and have a, very, very scientific, empirical involvement and taking it away from local to national and then to national to global. Because in this policy, we have done what we call as the internationalization of higher education first time. When you talk of, the implementation, the UGC under its chairman, Professor D.P. Singh, and I'm very happy that, today we have invited Professor Rajneesh. Professor Rajneesh, is a highly talented marketing professor, and he knows basically how to market the education from India, and marketing this education, and not only education, marketing the concept, because it's very difficult that whatever the policy government makes, it goes to those stakeholders and they accept it. And Professor Rajneesh, along with the entire UGC team, we have gone through preparing a very, very detailed implementation of strategy, year-wise strategy, point-wise strategy for all the points. So, it also has got implemented, and I think in that implementation plan, we have also fixed up the responsibility who is going to implement it. So, if you see this kind of involvement of all stakeholders in an education policy is unprecedented in the history of this country.
Unprecedented in the history of this country. Professor Rajneesh, would you like to add to that?
So this policy is, as my friend Professor Joshi mentioned, is unprecedented in many respects. First of all, this policy came after a very long consultation with everyone, right from the bottom of the pyramid. Everyone was concerned, whether at village level, block level, city level, all were consulted, and more than 2 lakh ideas were taken into account. So this is a policy which is truly national in nature, which is truly a policy of common man. So everyone is concerned. So that has happened for the first time when such large scale consultation was done. And this policy brings out a new perspective in terms of not only what the students are going to learn, but particularly how they are going to learn. The focus has shifted from rote learning to experiential learning. The focus is on creativity, the focus is on critical thinking, the focus is on developing a well-rounded individual where they learn many more things. The education is now emphasized to be multidisciplinary in nature. And when we talk about multiple courses which will be taken by the students at the same time, for example, a science student would be able to study arts, humanities, or performing arts, or sports, etc. So in that case, it aims at bringing holistic development. And again, the focus is on experiential learning. That means in addition to classroom teaching, there would be interaction of the student with with industry, with society, with other experts, or even hands-on training through internship, apprenticeship, or many other ways. So this is going to bring a major change in how an individual will evolve, as I said earlier, both in terms of competencies as well as preparing them with the kind of life skills and lifelong learning approach which would be required to them to survive in the changing world in which we are going to be. So this policy is truly unprecedented and transformative in nature, and it has touched upon all the essential components of higher education, and specific provisions have been brought into. And we have started working in these directions, and many such initiatives have already been taken. I think I'll be able to explain it as we go further.
Right. Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi, when we talk about, when the Union Minister spoke about good governance, we are celebrating 20 years of good governance. We are celebrating Seva Samarpan at a time when, you know, we've seen so many examples of so many welfare projects, the revolutionizing of the way we the way we say pay our taxes, the way we, you know, avail of various benefits of the government, education to going through a revolution. So good governance, how would you relate it to education? Is it it is understood that it is it is an impact of good governance, a good education system, but how would you explain the process as it is happening now?
Very right. You know, I think it's a very, very critical time, because, you know, being in India, the viewers know the limitations of the Indian education system. And we also know that, you know, these are not only the limitations, but what we call is, you know, the issues related to the quality, issues related to the enrollment, issues related to the problems of the students, issues related to, you know, the transferability of the students from one discipline to other discipline. So if you talk of, you know, the structurally every shortcomings in the education system has been taken into account in forming this policy. Now, and this basically called for the structural reform. And in this educational policy, what we call is we have gone for the structural reform in the entire system. We have also, you know, basically discussed about what we call as the governance structure of the higher educational institutes or universities. We have also gone through, you know, which talks of the appointment of vice chancellors, deans, directors, and you know, the registrars and the other administrative staff. We have also incorporated the training program for each of them, the periodical skill upgradation. So it was a structural transformation. We have also done in this policy is, you know, the affiliating system with these colleges and the, you know, so many colleges which are 40,000 or so. But rather than the universities becoming the affiliating universities or the degree awarding bodies, we have focused more on, you know, the structural changes and strengthening the academic standard and the research standards across the university. One thing which is very, very, you know, the significant change in governance is the multidisciplinary approach. The departments, you know, we talk of the collaboration, the Indian universities with the foreign universities, but, you know, we don't collaborate with the local people. We don't collaborate with the local institutes, and the big institute in the country don't, you know, collaborate with a small or less known institute in the country. So we have got a system for that, and the multidisciplinary approach basically talks of the different disciplines for operating in silos, and this compartmentalization has been, you know, absolutely hammered upon in this new policy. Today, a person who is studying physics, he is studying zoology, botany, he is studying medicine, can also study culture, has study, you know, Sanskrit, can study art and pursue their passion. And this is, I think, the crux of this. And what we call as a synergy, synergy by definition is 2 + 2 is 5 and not 4. And therefore, the cumulative impact of this policy is going to be much more than the sum total. Another reform, Say if a student is attending a class and after say 2 years he has got some problem, financial problem, physical problem, and somehow he cannot attend a class for a year or so, he is absolutely debarred from examination. And if things are doing this, say maybe after 2 years or so, then he has to do the whole program again. But now what we have given them easy exit and entry options to these students, and a detailed plan is absolutely there. And not only this, we have asked all the colleges, all the universities, all the vice chancellors to come out with it. We have also asked all the state governments to come out with this task. So it's the whole policy and what we call is a vision is being implemented in a very, very holistic manner so that it sees light of the day. Very important part, I think, which we have brought in the policy, what we call as a good governance. You have seen the pandemic, the whole country was closed, and if you look into the kind of the lockdowns, India had probably the toughest lockdown anywhere else on the earth that we have seen. If you see the lockdowns, the physical movement of the students and the faculty was restricted. Students are highly precious. They are the youngsters. Students are very precious because they are, young children, and we have to protect them. It is probably the first time that the digital mode of, education, not only taking online lectures, interactions,
right, sir.
Have developed a lot of online content.
Right,
UGC
sir.
has got a lot
Professor Joshi, COVID.
Very importantly, more than this, very importantly, not only this, we have given recognition, what we say in the class taking, and even the examination system has been made, not only the end year examination, now there is a structural transformation in examination system, which is absolutely reflects the good governance, year-on evaluation, continuous evaluation of the student, so that it does not put burden on the brains and the social structure of the students and their parents as well. So I think all these things are unthought of and unprecedented.
Right, unthought of and unprecedented. Professor Rajneesh, when we talk about the impact that COVID-19 has had and the new education policy, how relevant would you say it is, considering the times we are in, the way the lockdowns have impacted the entire education process? Are we looking at the education system of the future? And as somebody who's been a part of the education system for years now, Professor Rajneesh, how would you describe education so far and the best practices that we can adopt from now on?
It's a very important question and very important issue. The kind of change which we are undergoing, whether it is by way of pandemic or by way of technology or by way of changing requirements of the industry, we at higher education body, we feel that we need to bring many changes at multiple levels. First of all, we have to bring change at the mindset level. Then we have to change certain structures. Then the change has to be brought in terms of resource and infrastructure level also. So there was a concept of classroom teaching pre-pandemic. And when during pandemic, everything was closed, institutions were closed, all of a sudden, people realize the power of internet, power of online learning, teaching, power of learning while sitting alone. So this has, in a way, created an entirely different world where students and teachers were suddenly exposed to different kind of realities. But at the same time, it has opened up new ways of teaching, learning, and new ways of preparing oneself. So this has at one end opened up a number of different pedagogical options which teachers or institutions have come across. So if we look at the future education scenario, it's not going to be a single mode teaching learning process. It is going to be a multi-mode teaching learning. The learning would take not only during the classroom hours, but it would also take in a blended mode or in a hybrid mode through online processes or by moving out and working with society, working with local people, working with industry. working with many other things. So, so the learning will not be confined only to the textbook and classrooms. So one
Yes.
major shift taking place is from a single mode learning process to a multi-mode learning process, which may be blended or hybrid. So, that is going to be the reality of the future scenarios. At the same time, there would be challenges before both students, teachers, as well as institutions. Students, they have to prepare themselves that yes, they have to learn within the classroom as well as outside the classroom, and then technology is going to play the enabling role, how they are going to make use of technology for the learning purposes. At the same time, teachers have to acquire newer skills and different approaches on how to provide learning inputs or learning how to deliver learning outcomes to the students. So they have to bring many changes in the entire teaching, learning, and assessment processes. At the institute level also, they have to bring the required infrastructure changes whereby this kind of a hybrid education or blended education could be facilitated.
Right. And we'll be taking a look at how these entire processes have been encapsulated, how these new changes have been encapsulated, how the various terms Jan Bhagidari and a new India, the pillar of the foundation of a new India, how and Sabka Prayas, how all these have come under good governance, how all these are part of the new education policy. But right now, it's time for a short break. Professor Rajneesh and Professor Joshi, do stay with us.
With the world's largest COVID vaccination drive, India is leading the way. As the vaccine reaches every corner of the nation, do not forget the mantra, Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi. Let's continue our fight against COVID-19. Vaccination along with social distancing, sanitization and masks.
Mask up, India!
Put your mask on and cover your nose and be safe.
Mask Up India.
नमस्ते लैंड मरहबन इलल हिंद
Salam India.
Namaste India.
नमस्कार भारत
نحن هنود
India.
माँ हिंदी हस्ती
Hindian.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in all Southeast Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back. After the break, we are discussing about good governance after the webinar that was held yesterday regarding good governance and in relation to the new education policy. With us are our esteemed guests, experts on the subject, Secretary of the UGC, Professor Rajneesh, and also Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi of the IIFT. And first of all, before we go back to our discussion, let's listen to what Prime Minister Modi had said regarding the new education policy just immediately after Teachers' Day last month.
देश के पास बदलाव का वातावरण है तो साथ ही नई राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति जैसी आधुनिक और फ्यूचरिस्टिक पॉलिसी भी है। इसलिए पिछले कुछ समय से देश लगातार एजुकेशन सेक्टर में एक के बाद एक नए निर्णय ले रहा है, एक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होते देख रहा है। एनईपी के फॉर्मुलेशन से लेकर इंप्लीमेंटेशन तक हर स्तर पर एकेडमिशियंस का, एक्सपर्ट्स का, टीचर्स का, सबका योगदान रहा है। आप सभी इसके लिए प्रशंसा के पात्र हैं। अब हमें इस भागीदारी को एक नए स्तर तक लेकर जाना है। हमें इसमें समाज को भी जोड़ना है।
Well, Prime Minister Modi there talking about the very concept that we are discussing next, Jan Bhagidari, in terms of education, in terms of the new education policy. Professor Rajneesh, coming to you, your thoughts, what the Prime Minister said just now, and how you, as somebody who decides on education policy, somebody who decides on the futures of so many students, so many youngsters in our country, how would you describe the concept of Jan Bhagidari as the Prime Minister explained it?
This is a very important concept, as Honorable Prime Minister has said about Jan Bhagidari. And in new education policy, this national education policy has a very unique feature. There is nothing extracurricular. Whatever a person does, a student does, is given due credit. So that means if a student is engaged in sports, so the sport is given due credit, and with the kind of academic bank of credit structure which we have, every activity will be given credits. If a student under Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is going into the villages and doing some kind of social internship or working with village people, so this kind of internship is also given credit. NCC activities are also given credit. Anything which a student does in any form has been considered as credit. So you will understand that a student, apart from classroom teaching, when he or she is engaged in the experiential process of learning by way of engaging in social activities or through sports or physical fitness related activities, or through environment development related or management related activities, or learning through industry or any other ways, where collectively multiple stakeholders are providing the input which will actually help the individual in learning variety of things, and everything is given due credit and becomes a part of their grade card. So this is a major change which has taken place and which is actually integrating all the components which were earlier working in silos. Now they are working in an integrated manner to develop holistic individuals. So I think that would explain the point.
Right. We also have with us Professor Nageshwar, who is Vice Chancellor of IGNOU, Professor Nageshwar Rao. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. During the course of our discussion, we discussed how the new education system, the kind of education we need, because we believe that COVID-19 has changed the entire way that our students, that our youngsters are learning, that our youngsters are getting educated, and the future of education in this country. We believe education has become more hybrid and driven by technology to a great extent. What are the aspects of the new education policy you feel will ensure that this happens?
If you look at the main ingredients of the national education policy, it talks about the multidisciplinary nature of the programs.
Yes.
And if you see existing curricula of most of the programs, they focus on only one discipline. Now, what the emphasis in the new education policy is that these disciplines, they should be interlinked. They should be interrelated. And once they become interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary, the results will be much, much better. More skills the students will learn. And for that purpose, the use of technology, for that also I would like to share the background which the Ministry of Education has got, and it is free of cost available to all the learners. That is, one is the SWAYAM platform. It was created way back in 2016, and more than 3,000 courses are available, where the registration is free. And these courses, they relate to engineering, they relate to humanities, they relate to social sciences, they relate to management, they relate to teacher education. 3,000 courses are available and free of cost, wherein the material is there, the interaction facility is also there, and you can have the clarifications also. Only in case of evaluation, for getting the certificates, you have to pay fees, and that test is being conducted by the National Testing Agency. And these credits which you earn through this process, that can be transferred to any of the education institutions in the country. So that mechanism is helping us a lot. For example, if an institution which does not have any facility relating to a course in Hindi, then what it will do is, it can only communicate to their learners that register yourself for SWAYAM courses in Hindi. Once those SWAYAM courses the student clears from the SWAYAM platform, which is the Ministry of Education initiative, and the test is being conducted by the National Testing Agency, again under the Ministry of Education, those credits, they can easily be transferred without having any facility with you. For your students who are in physics, who are in political science, who are in sociology, now they can comfortably get the additional credit of the Hindi. So that focuses that how to go with the multidisciplinary focus of our education, and that too with the help of technology, for which the student is not supposed to pay anything. More than 2 crore registrations they have taken place till this point of time. In addition to that, we are having Swayamprabha channels. 33 channels are available. 10 channels there with CEC. 10 channels there with the this technology, NPTEL. And you'll find that 4 channels there for teacher education. And for these channels, the videos, they are available free of cost at the doorstep of the learner. Look at the Dish TV, there you will find all those channels are available. Every day fresh content is available. So what you see is that for the courses which you are not in a position to provide to your learners, you can simply ask the students that go and register themselves with the SWAYAM platform. The lectures that can be delivered with the Swayamprabha channel. And the credit transfer mechanism, it is already existing, as has been already pointed out by the Secretary UGC, Rajneesh Jainji. Now those credits we can easily transfer under credit transfer mechanism. Earlier this percentage was 20%. Now it has gone up to 40%. So we should not worry about that, how we can go for a multidisciplinary program, how we can accommodate our learners. So that thing is being taken care of.
All right, all right. Coming to you, Professor Joshi, when we talk about Jan Bhagidari, you've already explained how there should be collaboration between local organizations. There should be collaboration between the local society, the local community, whether it is of artisans or say potters or farmers and so on, and students. But practically, how is it possible? And how will teachers fit into this entire new system that is being thought about? Because it will become, as we see it, a full-time job involving the whole day and perhaps the whole week. Are we ready for it?
Absolutely highly commendable. If you look into, we have asked the teachers and all the colleges, especially, they are preparing their own courses, rather than the government of India imposing the courses. Some transformational thing which this policy touches upon is from regulators to facilitators. So regulatory bodies like UGC, AICT, rather than regulating, everything now we are moving towards the self-regulation rather than the regulatory bodies. So what has happened in the implementation plan is we have asked the universities and the colleges to ask their different disciplines, say department wise, to bring out the courses. We call it vocational courses, and the teachers themselves are involved in designing the courses. So we have asked them to design the courses. They have designed the courses. Say on a local art, you say, in any place, say Moradabad or Tanjore or Agra, they have designed the courses local. Then we have also asked them that, what is going to be the, say, 40-60% ratio, the classroom teaching plus the field learning. Now, field learning has got different concepts. It has got internship concept, full-time internship, some practical concept, and then some part-time job concept there. So therefore, and the teacher's role is, rather than preaching, the teacher is co-creator of the knowledge. And we have also moved from what we talked is from teaching to learning. Emphasis in the new policy is entirely on learning. So it's a unique mix that probably has ever happened in India, that classroom teaching, is involved, say, with the local skill set, and it is going to be, mutually beneficial. It will develop the students in the local skill set. It will also develop the systematic, the research and development on those local skills. It could be art, it could be history, it could be culture, it could be language. And so the two ways. So the local area also get benefited, the student get benefited, and the skill set of the teachers also get benefited. So I think it's a complete chain of what you call as a Jan Bhagidari or a complete Bhagidari, which I think we have created. Very important in this Bhagidari is we have put a special emphasis on the native languages in the entire policy. In the native languages are to be focused. We have also put a lot of focus, especially on Sanskrit. Now, Sanskrit is because the mother of all the languages, the Indian languages, and we made a local focus. And if you see, and the local culture, art and history, heritage. So all this focus is what we call is the education policy is also going to, the cultural transformation. The cultural transformation of the students, the cultural transformation of the higher education institution, and more importantly is the cultural transformation, the way how the education is being imparted. So with this, I think the system is going to be, actually more than this, the Bhagidari, the local does not remain, limited to the local, but internationalization is a very, very important aspect which is covered probably first time in the policy. You might be aware that the UGC has also prepared the draft regulations on the internationalization of those education that is under consideration. We are also the Jan Bhagidari also looking at the global citizenship education under the United Nations.
This is one point, sir. Right, Professor Joshi, this is one point, sir. It's great you've brought it up. Well, we are coming towards the last phase of the program. I'd like Professor Rajneesh to speak about this. What are we talking about when we talk about India becoming a world destination for education? Because already, well, there are many universities under the UGC that are famous around the world. Students from many parts of the world would like to come and study here. They are looked as a coveted positions, a degree from those universities under the UGC. So when we talk about India becoming a world destination, what are we basically talking about here? What is the change in the concept of becoming a world destination for education, this time in the NEP?
That's a very important point which you have highlighted. India has actually become an important destination for global students. There are many ways in which this process is being facilitated. We are working at the regulatory level, where we are creating some enabling mechanism through which institutions can collaborate with international institutions, where student exchange or faculty exchange can take place, research can be done in a collaborative manner, where students from different international places, from different countries, they can come in our country and they can study. At the same time, we are also creating some mechanism through which we develop the facilities in terms of providing the right kind of courses and right kind of infrastructure which is conducive to international students. For example, there may be some highly specialized courses in the area of pure sciences, or in the area of arts, humanities, or Indology, or culture, or history, or philosophy. So there could be highly specialized courses which will be of interest to international students. So these courses will be offered to international students through identified institution. And there is a study in India program also, whereby these kind of courses are being promoted, and a complete ecosystem is developed. At the same time, institutions are also encouraged to develop not only the courses, but also suitable infrastructure and facilities for international students in terms of international student office, their hostel facilities, their medical facilities, their other amenities which are required at an international level. So we are trying to provide enabling mechanism through which regulatory changes can be brought in, through which course content and unique courses can be developed which attract international students. At the same time, the kind of facilitative environment and other mechanism through which they feel comfortable at home in India when they come to India, so they don't feel left alone. So they are brought into the process, and so that they don't face many problems. I think there would be many more efforts in this direction, in which collectively we are going to provide a better place, and India will emerge as a better place to attract international students.
Right. Professor Rao, we'd like your thoughts on this. You're the Vice Chancellor of Indira Gandhi National Open University. As far as open universities go, IGNOU is one of the most prestigious, one of the most respected, not just in India, but in the world. Would you agree if I said that? And the journey of Indian universities attracting foreign students so far, and what is the level we are aiming for in the new education policy?
To supplement what the Secretary UGC, Sri Rajneesh Jain has said, IGNOU is already in the field of international arena with respect to the students. Every year we get around 3,000 to 4,000 students admitted through our online as well as ODL mode. Of course, recently from 2018 onwards, the online regulation has come up. And in 2020 regulations, which has already been the brainchild of the UGC, now through that process, around 40 institutions they have been permitted to go with the online, because these are the institutions where they are having NAAC score 3.51 plus. and they are having better NIRF ranking amongst the top 100 institutions. So those institutions, they were permitted to go for the international linkages, and around 50 institutions they have already come up, and they are
Right, sir. Well, we seem to be having a technical problem there.
to almost 3 to 4.
Right. Please continue. Sir.
Recently, 1,000 students we got admitted from the Guyana. It is a state where the president himself was keenly interested to provide scholarships to the students who want to get themselves registered for IGNOU. So around 30 courses they have been, 30 programs they have been considered by them, and students they have already been registered, and we are providing online as well as ODL support to all the learners so that they can get the maximum benefit in terms of knowledge, skills and the values. So our international presence, it is continuously enhanced, and only a few days back, Honorable Minister of Education is also talking to the Minister of the Government of Guyana how to promote for this, and they are keenly interested in the teaching learning process of the universities in India. So we are very popular, our brand is very, very strong. So the only things we have to push ahead, and for which the 2020 regulations of the ODL and online regulations, it is also giving impetus in this direction.
Right. Well, as it's time to go, but before that, let's listen in to what else the Prime Minister said on that day when he addressed the nation on the occasion just a few days after Teachers' Day on the 5th of September.
देश ने सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास के साथ सबका प्रयास का जो संकल्प लिया है, विद्यांजलि 2.0 उसके लिए एक बहुत ही जीवंत प्लेटफॉर्म की तरह है, वाइब्रेंट प्लेटफॉर्म की तरह है। इसमें हमारे समाज को, हमारे प्राइवेट सेक्टर को आगे आना है और सरकारी स्कूलों में शिक्षा की गुणवत्ता बढ़ाने में अपना योगदान देना है।
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi there summarizing and encapsulating the vision of a new India based on a new and revolutionized education system. Well, many thanks to all our esteemed guests who joined us on this occasion. Professor Rajneesh Jain, Secretary UGC, Professor Nageshwar Rao, Vice Chancellor IGNOU, and Professor Rakesh Mohan Joshi, Dean IIFT. Many thanks to all our guests. Thank you so much for joining us, and viewers, that brings us to the end of this edition of In Focus. And with the new education policy, hopes are high that India is moving forward on the fast track towards a self-reliant India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. That's all in this edition of In Focus. News and updates continue on DD India, so do stay tuned. Namaskar.